I met Kathy at a midday cookout, thrown by a mutual acquaintance close to 5 years ago. It was one of those gatherings where coworkers, neighbors, and random acquaintances showed up with folding chairs and plates of crisp coleslaw. She was standing near a table of half-eaten finger foods, sipping some sweet tea. I introduced myself, and she flashed a bright, inviting smile. Right off, I noticed she had an eloquent way of speaking, a sort of corporate polish that set her apart from my usual circle of friends. I liked contrasts. I was rough around the edges, never cared much for winery tours or corporate meet and greets, while she seemed to thrive on them. But we clicked. We started dating a few weeks after that cookout. It was fast, physical, magnetic. We basically tore each other's clothes off the moment we got together. She was a successful corporate up-and-comer, while I was a director of technical sales who traveled frequently. Over the course of 18 months, we became inseparable. In my mind, she was everything. Partner, best friend, source of comfort. We moved into the same apartment after the wedding. I contributed about half our monthly rent unless I was away on a contract gig, and she footed the rest with her impressive salary. That synergy seemed to work at first. By the third year of marriage, though, the cracks began. For me, and this is where I'll admit my wrongdoing, I can be domineering, controlling, and even cruel if I feel I'm losing my grip on the situation. Kathy and I fought about small things: her new obsession with late hours, her repeated work outings, her endless phone calls. Sometimes I would tease her, "Up late again? Gonna bring me a souvenir from that bar you love so much?" If she snapped back at me, I'd snap back harder. I was not the guy who would just roll over and let someone walk all over me. But it's also true that I left on long business trips, sometimes for weeks, leaving her lonely. We both felt justified in our resentments. February 2018 was my personal doomsday. That's when the puzzle pieces, which I had avoided putting together, finally formed a picture of betrayal. I'd had a vague suspicion for a month or so. She had begun spending extra time at the office, even disappearing on weekends. Then one evening, I did the unthinkable: snooped. Kathy had asked me to grab groceries from the trunk of her car. While leaning in, I noticed a pink bra half tucked beneath the passenger seat. It was hers, yes, the brand and style matched. But in my mind, it was the way she typically peeled it off that haunted me. She once told me she liked to remove her bra from under her blouse when she felt especially worked up. Maybe I was too paranoid. Maybe not. My blood pulsed, but I said nothing. I wanted to confirm my suspicions. I began planning how to trap her. I was tricky like that, always wanting to catch someone red-handed rather than have an honest conversation. Instead of confronting her, I meticulously took mental notes. The next day, she was out late again. So I cooked a fancy meal, set the table, lit candles. I figured maybe I could charm her into a nice evening. If she was cheating, maybe she'd slip up. She came in at 8, wearing that tight business skirt and the slightest aroma of men's cologne that wasn't mine. She announced, "I can't stay. I have to shower and meet some coworkers at the neighborhood hangout." She brushed off the dinner and apologized with a forced smile. Instead of arguing, I marched to her car while she showered and threw my company cell phone onto her back seat so I could track it with my personal phone. Sometimes my anger manifested itself in bizarre, sneaky ways. I felt a certain rush while doing it. She left soon after, hair damp, clothes fresh. I gave her the cold shoulder. She pranced out without a second glance. I used my phone to follow her location. Sure enough, she stopped at the bar she frequented with her work buddies. I parked across the street, waited. Finally, around 9, I watched her exit with a tall, well-groomed man, definitely older than me with that boardroom confidence. I watched him take her hand and kiss her. My stomach twisted. They slipped inside another sedan and drove off to a hotel 10 minutes away. I parked across the street, watched them go in together. It was done. The rage, the sense of utter betrayal soared through me. But here's what might surprise you. I didn't confront them that night. I had a darker method in mind. I decided I'd piece together everything. I would not just gather proof, I'd crush her with it. So, I left. I found a tavern out of town, downed a few drinks, debated my next moves with a stranger, a man named Rye. He offered me a small trailer on his ranch, a place I could disappear. "Sounds like you need to cut your losses," he said in a laid-back country accent. Sometimes a big reset is the only cure. Stoic as I was, I liked that idea. Vanishing. The next morning, Kathy woke, came out of the bedroom, gave me a suspicious look. "Where did you end up last night? You just vanished," she said. I let out a cynical laugh. "Where I go is my business," I spat. But while we're at it, are you sleeping with someone at work? Her eyes widened, but she quickly composed herself. You're being ridiculous. I was at the bar. You can ask my coworkers. She tried to wave it off, then demanded I leave her alone, calling me a paranoid lunatic. I didn't push further. Confrontation was my specialty, but I wanted to bide my time and plan an exit that would shatter her illusions about controlling the narrative. That Monday, I quietly began packing. By day, I played along as her husband, or at least a ghost that wandered the apartment. By late afternoon, I'd rent a pickup, drive a load of my stuff out to the trailer. Rye and I set it up in the foothills of the mountains, an hour out of the city. I told nobody of my plan. Kathy noticed I was calmer than usual. She adjusted her tactics. Suddenly, she was being sweet, offering me coffee in the mornings, giving me half smiles. But I wasn't going to forgive or forget. Then I found something I couldn't ignore. In the trunk of her car, behind old grocery bags, was a used condom packet. Even as a man used to shady stuff, that disgusted me. The wrapper was sticky, smelled foul. It was so blatant, like she wasn't even trying to hide it. It triggered an almost manic laughter inside me. She was that careless? Or maybe it was a twisted power move, leaving me these breadcrumbs of betrayal. That night, when she came home, I confronted her. I held up the used condom package in a plastic bag and said, "Kathy, what's this?" She froze. For a split second, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Then, unbelievably, she started telling me that it must be old from 6 months ago, and she had no idea how it ended up in the trunk. She babbled something about it being from some girlfriends who messed around in my back seat. I found that laughable. Our argument escalated. I kept pressing. "Who's the coworker? Let's hear his name." "Let's see your phone right now," she hissed back. "Stay out of my life, Paul. If you trusted me, you wouldn't be violating my privacy. I'm done talking about this." My fists clenched. I had to walk out of the apartment to avoid lashing out physically. Despite my cruelty streak, I'd never put my hands on her, and I wasn't about to start. But the next day, Kathy flipped the script. She cornered me at home, eyes puffy, hair disheveled, and blurted out, "Paul, I'm pregnant. It's yours. I swear on my life it's yours." My mind reeled. Logically, I should have demanded a paternity test on the spot, but some primal part of me still wanted to believe her. She insisted she'd only cheated once, maybe twice, but the baby was definitely mine. "This is fate, right?" "You'd be such a great father," she stammered. I stared at her with stony detachment, but inside, I was spinning. "Don't expect me to jump for joy," I murmured. "I want proof. I don't trust you." She teared up, called me an unfeeling monster. I stepped toward her, voice low. "You're the one hooking up in random cars, Kathy. Don't throw the word monster around." She turned away, sobbing. Our dynamic had become toxic. Two people desperate to destroy each other. Days later, she stormed back into my life with her father, Frank, in tow. While I wasn't on the best terms with him, I never expected him to show up unannounced. They cornered me outside the apartment. Kathy had insisted I return to talk about family matters, so I arrived, expecting more lies. The minute I stepped out of my truck, Frank loomed over me, a tall, broad-shouldered man who had never liked me. "Paul," he barked, "I heard you've been making my daughter's life hell. She's pregnant and you're out here snooping in her trunk like a degenerate. Show some respect." I stared him down. "Respect? Did she tell you she's been screwing around with some suit from her office? Because that's respect, right?" Kathy's face went pale. Frank stepped closer. "Watch your mouth," he warned, pointing a thick finger in my face. "If she's pregnant, you need to man up and take responsibility. If I hear one more word about some alleged affair, I'll teach you a lesson." I sneered. "Teach me a lesson, Frank." "Are you going to lecture me about fatherhood while your daughter's cheating under your nose?" He grabbed the front of my shirt. His breath stank of stale coffee and old cigarettes. "I'll do more than lecture you if you keep slandering my daughter," he growled. That was my moment. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the video I'd discreetly taken of Kathy and that coworker leaving the bar, their arms around each other, stumbling into the hotel. I'd used my phone camera from across the street. Grainy, but enough to identify them. I pressed play. The shaky footage showed Kathy leaning in for a kiss, the streetlights reflecting on their faces. I shoved the phone under Frank's nose. "That's your daughter, right? Deny it. Tell me she's not hooking up with this guy." Frank snatched the phone, eyes bulging. Kathy's face crumpled. She reached out, shrieking, "Dad, that's not what it looks like. This is an old video." An old video? That was the best she could do? Frank stared in stunned silence, his grip on my collar tightening. Then he erupted. How dare you show me a video like that? My daughter isn't some tramp you get to humiliate. What kind of sick, twisted man keeps secret recordings? He turned, filled with rage, and threw the phone to the pavement, shattering the screen. I snapped, "You owe me a new phone." He swung a wide-open palm at my face so abruptly I didn't have time to block it. The slap echoed off the apartment's courtyard walls, and I stumbled backward onto my knees. Blood pooled in my mouth from where my teeth caught my lip. Kathy shrieked, "Dad, stop!" That's when our neighbor, Franklin, a retired cop known for being ready to confront trouble, came barreling down the hallway holding his .357 Magnum. "Hey!" he roared. "Take your hands off him, now!" Frank froze, shoulders heaving, eyes wild. Franklin aimed the revolver in that unwavering, no-nonsense stance. "Kneel! Hands behind your head!" Kathy burst into frantic sobbing, insisting, No, my dad didn't mean it." Frank growled. "Who do you think you are, pointing a tool at me?" "Lower that damn weapon!" "Down on your knees now," Franklin repeated, "or I swear I'll put you down." Frank hesitated, but realized a standoff with a loaded revolver was a losing proposition. Slowly, grudgingly, he sank to his knees. Meanwhile, I stumbled to my feet with Franklin's help, wiping blood from my lip. That's when the police arrived, horns blaring, neighbors peeking out from second-floor balconies. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt. Officers jumped out, guns drawn. "Drop the weapon!" they shouted at Franklin. Franklin put the Magnum on the ground and raised his palms. "I'm a retired officer. That man offended the victim," he said, pointing at me. Chaos ensued. The lead officer approached me. "Are you injured?" "I'm fine," I said, still unsteady. He slapped me across the face out of nowhere. He also destroyed my phone. Frank tried to stand, but another officer shouted, "Stay on your knees. Hands where I can see them." "Don't you tell me what to do," Frank argued. "I was defending my daughter's honor. This man is scum." One officer pinned Frank face down, yanking his arms behind his back. "That's offense, sir, and you're failing to comply with an officer's instructions." Kathy exploded into hysterics. "This is crazy. We can talk it out." "Dad, please, just stop resisting." She rushed toward the officer, but was blocked by a second cop, who insisted, "Back off, ma'am." Within seconds, Frank found himself in handcuffs, pinned hard to the pavement. He kicked at the officer's leg, cursing, refusing to calm down. "Let me go!" he boomed. "You have no right!" Kathy shouted. "He's my father! You can't do this!" The lead officer spun on her. "Ma'am, do not interfere, or you'll be under arrest for obstruction." That confrontation was explosive. Another neighbor tried filming the scene. Franklin was forced to the side while they verified his retired officer status and realized he had indeed been defending me after witnessing an assault. Meanwhile, Frank continued to thrash until they threatened to tase him. Finally, he slumped to the ground, cursing me, cursing the cops. "Paul!" he spat. "You'll pay for this. You ruined my daughter's life. You're the villain in this entire damn scenario." I touched my swollen lip and scowled. "Look in the mirror, old man. Your daughter cheated, lied, and now she's claiming I'm the father of her baby." Kathy sobbed. "I'm telling you it's yours. I wouldn't lie about that. I just messed up. I'm sorry." "You're only sorry because you got caught," I said, voice cold. The police marched Frank to the patrol car, ignoring his protests and the venom in his gaze. He refused to sit, so they half-shoved him inside. Kathy turned to me, face streaked with tears. "Please, let me talk to you. I'm pregnant. We should talk about it." I stepped back, my eyes scanning her face. "We'll talk after a paternity test," I said. Then I pivoted to the officer. "You have enough to charge Frank with assault, destruction of property, resisting arrest, whatever else in the book, right?" The officer nodded. "We'll take statements, then we'll see what charges apply." Kathy tried once more. "Paul, you can't do this. My father's upset because he thought you were humiliating me." "It was all in the heat of the moment." "In the heat of the moment, he struck me, threatened me, destroyed my phone," I replied. My voice was stony. "I guess the next heat of the moment, maybe he'd shoot me." "No thanks," Frank sneered from inside the patrol car. "You want to press charges, you coward? Fine, I'll see you in court." Police took Frank away, Kathy following behind in her own car after being told to calm down or risk arrest too. I gave my version of events to the officer, who documented my torn lip, the shattered phone. Franklin corroborated my story. Within a couple of hours, the policeman gave me a card with a case number. "We'll be in touch. He's facing multiple charges: simple assault, property destruction, refusing a lawful order, resisting arrest. In this state, that can yield jail time, probation, and fines. A judge might reduce or negotiate, but he's in hot water." Franklin patted my shoulder. You good? That was insane. Yeah, I'm good, I answered quietly. Yet inside me, a twisted sense of triumph churned. I had the upper hand. Days passed. I retreated to the trailer in the foothills. More calls came, some from unknown numbers, presumably Kathy. I let them ring out. Then I got official calls, presumably from the prosecutor or the police, wanting me to come down and confirm my statement. I learned from a friend in the city that Frank posted bail, but was hit with official criminal charges. 1. Simple assault, Class A misdemeanor in many states. 2. Vandalism, destruction of property for smashing my phone. 3. Resisting arrest. 4. Possibly obstruction of justice, though that might get folded in. He could face fines and maybe a short stint in jail. If convicted, he'd have a record. Knowing Frank's arrogance, he might blow the case up even more in court. A week later, I returned to the apartment to gather any leftover possessions. I found Kathy pacing in the hallway, wearing old sweats, eyes red. She grabbed my arm. Paul, we need to talk about the baby. She was trembling, voice hoarse. I gazed at her, expressionless. If it's mine, I'll pay child support. But you and I, there's no future. She burst into tears. But I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I didn't know how lonely I was until I cut her off. You could have divorced me if you were unhappy. Instead, you lied. You let your father attack me. You do realize that's unacceptable. Her eyes flicked to the floor. I didn't let him do anything. He was furious, and you kept provoking him. I felt a vicious streak rise inside me. And do you think it's normal to have a used condom wrapper at the bottom of your trunk, or to come home reeking of some other man's cologne? She dried her eyes on her sleeve. We never used condoms, so that was from someone else. It wasn't even me and him. It was... God, I can't keep making excuses. It's so messed up. Melodrama. I was done. Listen, I said, grabbing a set of electronics from the kitchen countertop. You can talk to my lawyer once I have one. Because if you're pregnant and you want me in that child's life, we'll do everything legally. And if it's not mine, you'll never hear from me again. Understood? She looked stricken. Paul, can't we just work this out? You used to love me. You can love me again. A low chuckle slipped from my throat. I can also walk away, permanently. She stared with puffy eyes, rage and despair both flickering. I gave her a small wave and left. Days later, I received a text from an unknown number. It read, Paul, it's Kathy. My father's trial date is set. Granted, he might plead out, but if you continue pressing charges, he's done for. I typed back a single line. He attacked me without provocation. That's a crime. She shot back. Would you consider dropping it for the sake of the baby? If you want to talk. I turned my phone off. No thanks. I shifted into full villain mode, ignoring her pleas, ignoring the father's predicament. Some might say I was obsessed with revenge or too callous for my own soul. But I believed they deserved no mercy. Kathy had tried to lure me back with half-baked apologies and a suspicious baby claim. Frank had resorted to physical violence. They had both underestimated how cold I could be. Weeks turned into months. I kept in contact with the county prosecutor, confirming I wanted to move forward. Nobody threatened me into dropping charges. This was my righteous retribution. My friend in the city told me if Frank was convicted, he could get up to a year in jail or a hefty fine, maybe both. With decent lawyers, it might shrink to probation. Still, the humiliation alone would make him regret messing with me. As for Kathy, she tried email once I blocked her phone number. She wrote, I'm truly sorry for everything. I understand if you hate me. But please, for the baby's sake, let me talk to you. I'd do anything to fix this. I'll quit my job. I'll leave my father if it helps. I know you think I'm a liar, but the baby is yours. I sent back, paternity test after the birth, Kathy. That's the only conversation we'll have. I'm living my own life. Leave me alone. She responded, Paul, I made a stupid choice, but I love you. I've always loved you. I was hurting. I was confused. My father only acted out of love for me. Please don't destroy him. Please don't shut me out. I gave no further reply. About a half year later, I received an email from the county. Frank had pled guilty to a lesser form of offense and resisting arrest. He was fined $5,000 plus costs for court. He was placed on probation for a year, forced into anger management, and had to pay me restitution for my destroyed phone. I was informed that if he violated probation, he might serve jail time. It felt anticlimactic, but still, I had the satisfaction of seeing him get penalized for that cheap shot slap. And word was he lost respect around his social circle, an old-school father who tried to defend his daughter's honor by brawling with her husband and ended up in handcuffs. People gossiped. He hated that. When Kathy's due date came around, I refused to show up at the hospital without a legally mandated test. She left messages. "I'm in labor. I'm about to have our baby. Paul, where are you?" I still had her blocked, so the messages were emailed. I didn't budge. My heart had grown stone cold. A paternity test was arranged. I gave my sample discreetly. A few days later, the lab results confirmed that the child was not mine. It had been an empty promise of fatherhood or a desperate guess on her part. She wrote me a final email. "I'm so sorry. I truly thought it might be yours. Or at least I wanted it to be. Now I have to raise this baby alone. Please, can we at least talk?" I never replied. Time passed. I found my own sense of warped peace in the foothills, living out of Rye's old trailer beneath pines, occasionally driving down to the local bar for a beer. People might say I had become a loner, maybe even a monster in my own right. My approach to conflict was scorched earth. If you cross me once, I finish you. That's the man Kathy fell in love with, ironically, because I was strong and unyielding. She just never anticipated that strength would turn on her the moment she betrayed me. A year later, while grabbing coffee in a small mountain town, I saw Kathy outside on the sidewalk. She looked thinner, older, with dark circles under her eyes. I tried to slip away, but she noticed me and called out, "Paul!" She hurried across the street. It was almost surreal. Part of me wanted to greet her with a smile, see if there was any warmth left, but a bigger part reminded me of the used condom wrapper, the video of her with the coworker, the father who slapped me. The night everything unraveled, we ended up talking. Her voice shook with regret. "I lost everything. My father's still furious, claims we should have fought you in court. I quit my job after the scandal. And my baby's father? Well, he wants nothing to do with us either," I answered, voice flat. "Actions have consequences. Simple as that." She tried to hold my arm, but I pulled away. "Paul," she whispered, "people make mistakes. Forgive me. Even if you don't want me back, can't we at least talk like human beings?" "Human beings don't leave used condoms lying around," I snarled. "Human beings don't let their father assault someone who's done nothing but ask for honesty. I saw your child was never mine. My involvement here ended a long time ago." She nodded, tears brimming. "I can never take back what I did. I just wish we could have parted differently." I stared, noticing how the wind whipped her hair, how her eyes still had that glint that once attracted me. But I felt no desire left. I was hollow. "There's nothing else to say," I told her, stepping back out of her reach. "You should go." She tried one more time. "Paul, I still love you." I huffed a bitter laugh. "Then, consider that your curse, because I feel nothing for you now." I saw her face crumple as though I'd driven a knife into her heart, but my expression never wavered. I turned and walked away, never looking back. 2 weeks later, I learned from the same friend in the city that Kathy had moved away with the baby. No official details beyond that she resigned from her old firm, sold off a chunk of her belongings, and left to find a new start. Her father occasionally ranted at extended family gatherings that Paul destroyed my life, broke my daughter to pieces, but everyone else seemed to have moved on. As for me, yes, I'm the villain. I left the marriage quietly at first, only to summon the full force of the law when provoked. I refused to forgive any moral failing, withheld emotional mercy, and let father and daughter face the wreckage. Some might say I overreacted, that I should have handled it behind closed doors. But to me, I was done being anyone's doormat. The mountain air is crisp. I keep my daily routine. Jog along pine-sheltered trails, do some remote sales work, live frugally in the trailer. Nights I might share a beer with Rye, sometimes meet new folks at the tavern. I have a casual relationship with a woman who admires my independent streak, though I remain guarded. My life is simpler, unencumbered by illusions of trust. I haven't heard from Kathy since. Maybe in the far future, if she ever tries to reconnect, I'll react with less bitterness. But right now, I don't see that day coming. She, her father, the entire fiasco, they're all part of a past I no longer recognize as mine. When you discover a mold that's grown beneath the floorboards of your life, sometimes you tear up everything and start fresh. In my case, I tore it up, burned it, and scattered the ashes on a mountain breeze. Legal consequences. Once the police arrived on the scene, they immediately took statements. Frank refused lawful commands, verbally offended officers, and physically resisted detention. Under U.S. law, specifically in many states, Frank faced multiple charges. 1. Simple assault for slapping Paul and busting his lip. This can be punished by up to 1 year in jail and/or fines up to a few $1,000s depending on the jurisdiction. 2. Criminal mischief vandalism for destroying Paul's phone. Restitution typically covers the cost of replacement. 3. Resisting arrest. Frank's refusal to kneel and comply with the officers. This alone carries additional fines and potential jail time. 4. Disorderly conduct, or disturbing the peace, could be added based on his shouting and threatening behavior. Final disposition. Frank eventually pled guilty to a lesser charge and resisting arrest. He paid a $5,000 fine, completed probation, took anger management classes, and compensated Paul for the phone.